So welcome to this workshop, and I hope it is more of a workshop and less of a lecture. There will be some teaching though. Some of this you might be very familiar with, but maybe there's a lens or something you hadn't thought about, so I hope there's something new there for you. I'd like to talk in this workshop about adult formation that takes seriously the life stages and what I'm calling the life tasks of adults in different times and stages of their lives. And also looking at where they are actually spending most of their time, because most of us don't spend most of our time in church. We spend it in other places. And to think about those stages, tasks, and places as areas for Christian formation, for the integration of our faith lives with our everyday lives. So I want to start with a question to see what comes up for you. So take a moment to think and then turn to your neighbor, one other person, maybe another two. Where do you or adults in your parish, whether it's in your own life or something you've observed in others, where do you see adults struggling to connect their faith with their everyday life? So just take a couple of minutes. We're just going to take a couple of minutes to do that and share with one another. Thanks, everyone. Old teacher technique. That's a good one. So just from maybe 2 or 3 people, very briefly, if anyone wants to share what they had observed in their parishes, very briefly. Just raise your hand. Yeah? I'll repeat it. Right. Yeah. So faith and having the unhoused in our communities, and what's the connection between our faith and how we might act or what we might do, how to respond. Yeah.
Understanding drug abuse and mental illness.
Yes, the interconnected issues that the unhoused can often be integrated with, drug abuse and mental health issues and so on. Yeah, great. Yes?
Time management and having to split your time between your other commitments, work or family issues, and then finding that space and time to actually be connected to God, in a meaningful way, whether it's in church or nature or doing something spiritually connected somehow.
Right, so how does our faith life get integrated into our busy, often over-organized or disorganized lives in a number of ways? How do we find moments of connection with God? Great, yeah. Yeah, very good. So how does faith and chronic or terminal illnesses, how do we bring those together? How do we understand that? And issues of death and dying as well. Excellent. Thank you for those. Hold on to those. And for all of those who had other ones, hold on to that too. Those are treasures. So one of the things that sometimes happens in parishes, and certainly happened in parishes that I've been in, is that we have a tendency, this is a quote from Lisa Kimball, who is a just recently retired professor from Virginia Seminary. She said that a lot of us in parishes, we form the hell out of 20% of our congregations. So it's her words, not mine. But in some ways, it's literally true. We form a portion of people really well through what we offer, and those things are important and need to be offered. like our liturgies, like our times of prayer, like our Bible studies, like our service, all those kinds of things that we do, those are all important and they all form. But if we're honest, we know that people are having all these kinds of issues Monday to Saturday. Actually, it's just Sunday to Sunday, right? They're having all these issues, and are we necessarily helping them to form rich, deep, strong faith lives that can grapple with these real things and be informed by the reality of their own lives, so that our theology and our spirituality is working together? Because we are here, like Bishop Curry said, for communion, right? For wholeness as people and as communities. So we want to bring the whole in. It also helps us to avoid something that can happen, which Kimball also says is random acts of adult formation. So sometimes we can get a little anxious, like, I don't know, when I would serve, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I haven't picked an Advent study. You know, what am I going to do for Advent, or what am I going to do for Lent? Maybe I'll put together a bit of a speaker series. It's a bit of a shot in the dark. I haven't talked to anyone about it. There's a randomness to that that's disconnected to maybe where our people are at. Like, we have strong intuitions and hunches, and we should follow those as people who are developing ministry. But we want to bring a little bit bigger view and an intentionality to the education that we offer, the learning opportunities that we offer, and even a bigger sense of how much other things form us, other than, say, a course or a series, you know, fill in the blank, some kind of program. What else can form us and we can be intentional about shaping in our parish? So what I want to, a quick overview. First, we're going to look at a little bit of principles of adult faith formation. This is a big overlap in this workshop with adult learning theory. Just what's important to adults when they come and when they want to learn something. Then we're going to look at some of the processes that help with offering formation that meets these kinds of adult learning needs. We're going to look at modes and delivery methods. Then we're going to look at specifically a model of areas of Christian formation. 4 areas that all of us in the church are sent out into, that God sends us into, 4 areas. And then we're going to do a little bit of an actual workshop practice and do a little mini design, because I know we actually all can do this. So we're going to just take some time and we're going to practice putting together a little, some thoughts on how we might do some formation in our places. So these are the conditions that tend to work best for adults learning. And I am going to use learning and formation a little interchangeably. So adults learn best when they can bring their own experience in. So the very first question I asked, I want you to bring your own experience in. The wisdom is in the room. That can be a very helpful guiding principle. Adults want to be heard, and they want to be able to think about what they have learned and bring it to a community. They also want to have control over learning. So I invite you, if this isn't working for you, there might be another session that you would rather go to. You get to direct and make choices. We're not in an authoritarian model of schooling anymore. We can be free of that as adults. I mean, most children are. It's a little bit better now than it used to be for some of us growing up, but yeah, having some ability to direct your own learning and take responsibility for it. Adults want to know why. Some of this can sound like, are we trying to sell them on something? We're not. It's just that most of us don't have time to waste for a number of reasons. So tell me why I need to know this. I don't want to just be put into an adult confirmation class if I don't know why I might want to do that? What's the invitation to me to deepen my faith through looking at some of the core aspects of faith? What might be the benefits? The other thing is a degree of applicability, right? We could also call this relevance. So adults want to apply the learning. So you're going to apply your learning in this session today. And you will hopefully be able to directly address a problem or an issue or an opportunity that you have already thought about or that you're facing in your life. And that's the kind of learning design we want to bring, is to understand what are people facing right now. What are the problems and issues they're facing now? Chances are they're going to be a lot more interested in signing up if it matters to their lives now. And then finally, this goes for all humans, children to elders, but adults want to learn in a way that engages the whole self, right? The life of the mind is important. The life of feeling and our heart and affect is important. How do we engage that? There's a lot of ways. And then what can we do with that? What are the actions that we can offer out of that? What's the how? What's the training that we can actually do the thing that we've been stirred up by our mind and hearts to do? Okay, now I want to look a little bit at life stages and tasks. Because one of the things I had wondered about was, I do youth, children, family, and adult ministry, and I realized for a long time I was just coagulating adults into one giant blob, as it were, and I don't think that's very fair. We want to be an intergenerational church, and we are in many respects, but there's aspects of all these different generations that we may have kind of forgotten about when it comes to adult stages of life. So one way to look at formation too is in terms of what are the stage and tasks of life for these stages. Now this is a model, right? This is based on theories. This doesn't match up perfectly with our lives. That's okay. These are kind of like broad trends. So in young adulthood, what are the life tasks of young adults in their 20s and 30s? So children often can come into part of that. Yep, family, career, right? Whether that's biological or chosen family, it's about wrestling with intimacies and friendships. It's about starting out in a vocation, in jobs, in work. Anything else? Yep, schooling, training, university. It's also about identity building. What am I going to leave behind from my family of origin? What am I going to take with me, right, as they form their own households? So that's something to think about when it comes to Christian formation. What might be the kinds of formation that would address those life tasks and stages? Also, there's a real sense of adventure, right? And that everything is a possibility. So there can be more risk-taking, there can be an energy there as well. Then we get to midlife adulthood, 40s and 50s. What are the life tasks and work of that? It can be saying goodbye to the children. Finding balance. Yeah, one theorist says that this period is both recognized by a lot of stability and mastery, and chaos and uncertainty, right? So for many midlife adults, they're at the height of their careers, extremely productive, seasoned, but then they're like also sandwiched between childcare and parental care, and it can also be a total rethinking, like, should I have actually spent 20 years doing that? Maybe I need to do something else. So it can be a real profound rethinking. That's another area. These are tasks and areas that Christian formation can really help people live their lives with and through and together.
Relocation is a big one.
Yeah, mobility, yeah, relocation, moving. Probably the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s can all be affected by location moves. We're a really mobile society. Then we have mature adulthood, 60s and 70s. What are the life tasks? Work. What was that? Yep, beginning to have medical issues. Yep. There's a sense like, oh, I am having some aging things. This is a little bit of a surprise, but yet I knew it was coming. I don't feel that like I'm aging, except when I'm reminded. Yeah. Yep. And your ears? Peers. Yeah, so it's the stage of losses beginning with family, peers, friends. Yeah. It's also about thinking about legacy and service and what can I do now, because some people often have more time, have a certain degree of financial stability, hopefully. This is just a generalization. And so thinking about what can I give back. Yeah. It can be the ending of relationships, long time, that's right. So again, it could be a re-establishing of a new life. Yeah. It can also be a sense of freedom. Yep. To do things that you maybe haven't had a chance to do before. Yep. A sense of freedom, a sense of ability to choose where you want to put your time. What's that? Oh, bucket list time. So a lot is going on. And in this society and in this time, this is a relatively kind of newish period, quite long to have. Grandchildren, yes, thank you. The transition to grandparenthood for a lot of people. Yeah. You know this. You know these stages and the tasks. So finally, older adulthood. Thinking about end-of-life issues, which we heard, right? How does faith integrate with thinking about death and dying? So it comes to the forefront, and again, people are facing losses of friends, partners. Grounded spiritually. Yes, thank you. So this stage can also be marked by an increased openness to grace and a transcendent vision, the really big picture. It can also be a time of remembering and accounting for one's life. I know my dad, he's like, all these memories of his childhood and young adulthood that had been gone. Anybody else have that experience? Starting to come back. Also a time of loneliness, and there can be a challenge between kind of, these are just theories, integrity and despair can be a struggle, how to hold oneself together. Yeah. Oh yes, increased medical problems, though we do get mended and healed over and over in this stage too, until we don't. And isolation, yeah. So this is so rich. These are all aspects of life that people are meeting at each stage, and each of these things, everything that you've said, is an opportunity to engage with scripture, with tradition, with other Christians in our communities, whether of other generations, but also in the same group. Yeah. Quite a big move. So talking about downsizing, making choices about assisted living or smaller spaces. Yes, that's right. That is an important stage. The vast majority of people who are in assisted living are over 80. It very much can be a time of rediscovery. Yes, that's spiritual rediscovery. I would say often mature adulthood and older adulthood offer that opportunity. Another simpler way to think of it is from Ron Rolheiser, the Roman Catholic spiritual teacher, and he says, we spend the first half of our lives getting it all together, and we spend the second half of our lives giving it away. And I just think that's such a helpful way to think about our core tasks, and also to appreciate where different people are in our parishes. Are we trying to build it up and get it together? Or are we trying to learn how to give it all away? Okay, so we've looked at some of these broad opportunities across life stages and tasks. Now I want to look very quickly at some of the processes that we can generate and that work for adult formation beyond doing, say, a book study or a course. There are so many other ways to do this and in so many configurations. So first of all, adult formation can happen in a lot of different modes. It can be on your own, self-directed, especially today with all the digital resources that there are out there. We can offer people in our parishes so many ways to access and to deepen their faith journey with these real life situations. And they can do it in a self-directed way if that's what they need to do at that time in their life and they have the access to it and the desire. The other one is just one-on-one. So it doesn't have to be a group either. A lot of pastoral conversation is actually formation, as a lot of you would know. Then there's the small group kind of gatherings. Those can be ongoing kinds of life groups, but they can also be for a short time around an issue or a time in life. Large groups, this is more useful if you're thinking about seminar or big lectures or exciting keynotes, that kind of thing. That's a valid opportunity as well for formation. That can really help people. That's also a good way often for newcomers, right? It's kind of low demand, doesn't require you to be sharing of yourself. You can check things out. And finally, the whole community. There's multiple ways to offer formation opportunities. There are courses, and there are both online and offline and so on, and we have a local seminary even, so we have an abundance here. Facilitated conversation, this is just like a discussion group. I know many of you are probably small group leaders. You know how to do this. This is formation. Videos, podcasts, books, articles, activities. These are often the kinds of informal ways that people are learning now. So John Roberto, who is a scholar of Christian education, he quotes a study that's the way people learn now, 70% of their learning is informal, which means they're just kind of coming across it. Maybe somebody's curated or shared a podcast or some books for them, and they're just picking it up over time. As churches, we can be intentional about what we're kind of putting in the way for people, right? What they can gather up, listen to, watch, talk to, and look at. Okay, so this comes from another model about the purpose of a parish church, which is that the core purpose of a parish church is to gather the people, set up and create the conditions for transformation, to grow into Christ-likeness together, and then be sent out into the world. And our Eucharist does this pattern over and over again. It gathers us up, it transforms us through word and sacrament and community, and then sends us out. And where do we get sent out? Well, sometimes we might think it's going to be a more glamorous place, but God tends to send 99% of us to the places we already are. So our homes, our family lives, our workplaces and occupations, our responsibility as citizens, our society and civic life. And some of us are called back into church life, right? In its functioning and its flourishing. So these are 4 arenas for faith formation. So thinking through those life tasks, a lot of people are slotting and spending a lot of their time, in fact, most of their time, in these 4 arenas: family life, work life, society and civic life, and church life. Now, here's where it's going to get kind of exciting, I hope. We are going to do some practicing of designing formation experiences. So on these slips of paper, I have some very, very basic scenarios. I don't want to give you too much detail, just let your imagination fill in the blanks. And I want you to be in groups of 4, if possible, and if you're in parish groups, stick with your parish, all right? So put yourself into groups of 4. It's okay if we have a bit of unevenness, and find your parish if you're not with them. Hey everyone, looks like you got going right away. I love the enthusiasm, but you don't have the questions yet that I want you to look at. So, oops, you made your own questions. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give you the 3 questions, and if you don't like them, you can continue on with the questions you generated. Okay. First of all, where is God already present in this situation? Give some time to think about that. And then what resources or practices from Scripture or Christian tradition or experience could help this person or group reflect on their situation? And if you're unsure of resources or practices, where might be a good place to look? Who or where might you look for good resources? And finally, what simple learning experience could support this person or group in this situation? So I want you to think a little bit about mode, which is like conversation, one-on-one, self-directed, small group, large group, and delivery. Is this a course? Is this a video? Is this a discussion question? Just think about those 2 things. Simple learning experience. I'm going to give you a very quick example. So, example scenario, kind of like what you had. A small group of young adults gather for dinner 1 time a month at this parish, and many of them are new and struggling with parts of their jobs. This is a super common situation. Maybe one time at a dinner, you have an opening question. Where or when have you faced moral tension at work? This is a time of life where we're confronting the ambiguities of life and moral challenge, for example. And then I thought about, well, what might be a Bible story that they could quickly look at and reflect on? Well, Daniel 6, 1-9 is just before the lion's den. And it's great, because it's about this messy, backstabbing bureaucracy that serves a boss. And it could be just a helpful jumping off point, and also a way to relate to the stories of Scripture, which are our stories, and what's going on in their own lives. So just a simple kind of lectio, what emerges for them as they look at this passage. And then it can just end with praying for each other's workplaces. This can be super simple. This could be something you could find in the BAS, or they could do it together on their own. And then ask. They can ask one another, what's something you could try? What's a spiritual practice you could try that would support you in the workplace? Because sometimes we think we silo our activities, but maybe there's something that could specifically help us when we're at work. It's like super basic. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for. All right? Okay, go for it. I will tell you, you've got 10 minutes. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. We need to edit our workshop a little bit so that we can get ready for the closing plenary. I so would have liked to have heard what you came up with in your scenarios. Perhaps after you can tell me. I did want to share with you some resources if this is something that interests you and you'd like to pursue or just have a conversation about. I'm the Missioner of Christian Formation. That's my email address. You can also find on the Diocesan website under Adult Formation, there is a whole section that has informal and formal learning sources. It also has life stage and life area curricula. So if you do want to start with a program, or even if that's just kind of helps you kickstart some ideas, there are some programs there that you might want to check out. They've almost all been tried and tested in this diocese, and they're almost all free or very low cost. That's one of the criteria I always look for. A lot of the theory that I shared today comes from the Seasons of Adult Formation, which was edited by John Roberto, but it has a suite of authors, and it looks in more depth and detail on how to develop adult formation that takes seriously the life tasks and stages of the adults in our parishes. So take a picture of that, and we will conclude.